Hello, Roosevelt families. Today is Wednesday, February 1st, 2012. I'd like to take a moment to speak with you today a little bit about report cards. Our report cards are coming home tomorrow with grades that will reflect your child's progress over the first semester of our year. And I wanted to just share some thoughts with you about report cards and student growth and progress as it relates to your child's self-esteem. We know that oftentimes we worry about how we increase a child's self-worth or self-esteem, and we know through research and studies that the best way to improve a child's self-esteem or sense of self is by getting them to recognize the strengths that they have within themselves, as well as recognize maybe the weaknesses or shortcomings that they have as well, and understand those, and also be strategic in how to help themselves learn and grow. We do a lot of things externally to help children with that, but we do know that the best success comes from internal motivation for our children. One way we can do that is by reflecting on report cards. The report card itself is primarily a tool that we use to communicate from the teacher to the parent. The report card is designed for the parent and for you to know the progress your child is making. It's not a judgment on your child in the sense that we know that every child is a unique individual. They're all going to learn at different rates and different speeds and in different ways. And developmentally, children are at all different stages, no matter what grade or age they are. And we know that given enough time, even an egg can learn to walk. And so we want to make sure that we always give our children the time and support that they need in order to be successful. So some tips when talking about a report card with your child would be, for instance, if your child has really spectacular grades, let's say they might have received an A or a 3 or 4 in math, and instead of saying, wow, I'm so proud of you, and we know you are proud of them, step back just a moment and think of a way that we could approach that by not putting our feelings on our children, but having them take pride in themselves. So you could say, I noticed that you have an A in math. Boy, how does that make you feel? Or, I bet that makes you feel really proud. And then have them express to you, yes, that does make me feel proud. And then you can follow it up with, why do you think you have that A? Why do you think you got that 4? What was it that it took for you to be able to do that, to make that accomplishment? And get them thinking about, they might say, well, I really listen hard in class, and say, wow, that is great. So we know that when you listen hard in class, you do better in school. What other ways do you think made that happen? Well, I know that I do my homework. That's right. I'm so glad you figured that out, because that is an important part of doing well in school. What else do you think? And he goes, they might say something like, well, it's just easy for me, and say, wow, then that means that that's a talent that you have. So there's a lot of ways that you can have a child start thinking about their own learning, thinking about how they learn best, and then re-emphasizing it and supporting in that way. That way it gets them to really internalize how they're doing and process, so that the pride comes from them and from what they're saying. And then end it with, well, I'm so glad that you know yourself so well as a learner, and I'm very happy for you. Now, on the other side, if you see where a child is struggling in an area, you can use the same kind of questioning. You could say, for instance, if they've got a lower grade or a grade they're not happy with, say, well, okay, tell me, why do you think that happened? And they may say, well, I know I don't pay attention like I should. And say, well, the good news is that you're being able to recognize that. What do you think we could do to make that better? What could you do? Well, maybe I'm going to, fold my hands in my lap or not talk to my neighbor. Sometimes children have a hard time recognizing what they need to do to make it better. So if they can't come up with ideas, then you could say, well, if you don't know of any ways to make that better, would you like me to help you with that? Do you want me to tell you what I might do if I were you to make that better, what other children might have tried to make that better? And then they normally would respond yes if they don't have any ideas. And then say, well, I bet some children that struggle with reading think that a way to make that better would be to start reading more at home. And so maybe one suggestion might be that we could read together before bedtime each night. Maybe I could read to you, and maybe you could do reading to me. Does that sound like that might help you? And then they should respond yes, and say, well, I could help you with that. Let's start working on that. We could start reading together. Or maybe it's that a spelling, and well, what might help you? Well, we could maybe play a spelling game together, play hangman with our spelling words. Do you think that might help you? And just start giving suggestions, but then we want to try to, again, have them take some ownership for trying some strategies to help them out. If you need help with ideas for strategies for improvement, oftentimes your teachers will write those in the comment areas of your report cards, or you can always email them or give them a buzz. We can try to give you as much support as we can. But again, at the end, we certainly don't want children punished over their report cards, as well as I'm not so sure rewarding is the best way to improve their self-esteem, although if you do have a reward system and that works in your home, that's great. But I'd ask you to consider thinking about ways that you can get children to internalize and start thinking about their own learning and seeing themselves as a learner and how they learn best. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to call us, and we'll see you next time.